Hello reviewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about StarLink updates. So let's dive right into it. Now first you have to understand just a surface level, it's like what the heck we are talking about here. We are talking about a worldwide coverage. Hopefully, right now it's not possible, but hopefully that's the end game of it. And right now the biggest change that has happened is that Starlink went from official beta to officially being a service. As basically think of it this way: at this point in time, if you are getting poor service, you cannot simply say, oh, it's a beta service. As mean, at this point in time, company has enough confidence in the product that they are like, no, this is not a trial product, this is an actual product. So they are above ahead of beta programming. At this point in time when I'm making this video, they have around 1732 satellites working. Now be mindful that they have launched many satellites, but many of them also failed, and some mathematics puts it up around 5% failure rate, meaning if they are launching 100, 5 of them are failing. So that's why the number is not much higher. So yes, they have sent much more than that, but active healthy satellites, that number is not that high. And it's available in many countries at this point in time, not only in USA, also in UK and Canada and some other places also, and many more will be added. Basically they are genuinely trying to do this where they are like, we cover whole planet, meaning any Tom, Dick and Harry at any location, as long as they can afford it, can get quality internet, meaning high bandwidth and low latency, good throughputs internet system. And India should be starting to get it around mid 2022. Basically that's the target of it, and they are only possible to do this simply because they have their own rocket launch vehicle. Because this sort of claim has been made thousands of times. There are many company, at least 10 companies that you can easily count, and most of them fail simply because none of them have their own space agency. SpaceX is the other way around. They have the space agency first, then they're like, what if we launch internet also? Now the biggest big change that a customer is gonna see is that McSquarepants is gonna happen. Basically their old dish system, it was the Dishy. Now Dishy they have changed away, and now they are giving you the square system. Now you have to understand, Dishy was cool looking and all that, but it was too expensive to mass produce. Now you're like, okay, if it was too expensive, why did they make it? This is a common tactics done in many industry, meaning they're gonna make a product and they're gonna refine the production after they have started to sell it. Yes, they will sell it on a loss. For example, estimates put it around $1,000 to $2,000 to make it, and they are selling it for $500. So yes, they were taking a huge loss, but this sort of thing has been done again and again in history. For example, PlayStation 3 is a very common example, where it's like first few years it was just a loss, just loss, don't even think about it, just loss. So it happens, it's a common sort of thing. So they learned everything they needed to learn. They refined this, they got a real world product data out of it, and now they have made Mark II, this square puppy. Now this puppy is much smaller, much lighter. So for example, the diameter of Dishy was sphere, it was like around more than half meter, basically around 60 centimeters. So it was a huge box. The box that they needed to ship was too huge. Consequence of that, if the box becomes huge, the meaning each basically shipping parcel truck cannot carry too many of that. That simply means your per parcel delivery cost goes up, and if the weight goes up, that also increases the cost of basically shipping from a manufacturing plant, let's say somewhere in China to your USA. It will increase the cost based on the weightage of it. So you want to make it small and you want to make it light if you want to mass produce it. So Dishy, they got the technology down. They're like, this is exactly how we're gonna build the phase array, this is how we're gonna have the motors, this is what we're gonna do, and they learned a lot from that. Now in the second one, they have made it much smaller. This is like a smaller box, like almost literally half the size, and weight is also less. This is 4.2 kilograms, the rectangle box, compared to 7.3 kilograms. So you get the idea, like it's almost half. So that's the whole point. And this time more or less everything is same, only the basically this router, they have been Appleify the router basically, because think of it this way: you go to any network kind of personnel, any network manufacturing company, which be D-Link, be it whatever company you are talking about, all of them, they make sure you always have one port known as Ethernet port. If you're dealing with networking, you must have Ethernet port, and they are pulling an Apple here where they're like, what if we remove the Ethernet port? Like, wouldn't that piss off people? Yes, it will, but it will force people to buy something extra. This basically blah blah blah, basically Ethernet adapter basically. Now you may like, why the heck company would do that? Why would a company piss off their own customer to extract more money? Well, Apple, that's how Apple runs. That's why Apple always use proprietary hoo-ha. So they literally have to think of it this way: like this sort of adapter will cost them to make let's say $1 to make, and they will sell it for 20. So the multiplication factor on these things are much higher. So if you look at iPhones, they do not multiply money by that much. Of course they're like, you pour 1 billion, you got 1.5 billion, you have $500 million profit, but you again risked $1 billion. When you're talking about dongles are like, each dongle is made for let's say $1 and they sell it for $20. GG money. Multiplication factor is high. So this is a very sad thing to do, but I am pretty sure they are doing this simply because they are genuinely in bad shape. For example, recently the talks of that SpaceX could actually go bankrupt, and many people are very clear about it. Yes, SpaceX is a profitable company, but problem is, if their income is, let's say, $100 million a month, they are burning $120 million a month. So they are basically going in negative. They are burning through their reserve cash very quickly. So if this is working, if this is actually starting to bring even a little bit of money, if they can multiply the multiplier, they're like, okay, so let's say this dish system is not going to give them too much money, at least for a few years, but this will. So that's why they removed it, because you cannot have a networking equipment without a goddamn networking port, but they did it. So this is one of those things where it's like, no, you are really doing a Apple here. However, they have learned a lot of useful lesson. For example, the older one, the cable was bonded to the basically shaft, which was like hyper stupid. They have learned from that. This time the cable is detachable, meaning if you are a person who does not need ludicrously long cable, you get a small one. If you are a person who needs ludicrously long cable, buy that one and you can replace it. And think of this is a cable. It can get damaged by animals, by things happen. Cable get damaged, so you can just replace the cable in this Gen 2. Gen 1, it's like you have to throw away the whole Dishy. So that's why they have to do. And this time the router wise, they have upgraded the router, so they no longer have the PoE injector which they used to have. So this PoE injector is now embedded into the basically router. So from a manufacturing point of view, they have not only made it smaller, lighter, and simplified it, they also reduced the parts count, which directly translates to how expensive some total package will be. So instead of having, let's say, 4 objects, they are only shipping 3 objects. That is a tangible saving, meaning they're gonna save some serious amount of money. This is far more mass manufacturable. The only odd thing that people are finding is that router is almost like, it can work at minus 22 Fahrenheit to 122 Fahrenheit, or around minus 30 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius, which, mind you, it's still not high enough for India, because India, I do live in a place where outside temperature can easily, especially if you are talking about rooftops, they can easily cross 55 degrees Celsius. So we are almost exceeding that, but you get the point. It also has waterproof rating of IP54, but it's configured for indoor use. So my best analysis that I can come up with is that they tried to make it outdoor rated as as robustly as they can, but realize the plastic that can withstand outdoors is far more expensive, because plastic has only one weakness: UV light. There is only one source of UV light, that is sun. And if sun is going hard on your system, it's not gonna work. So that's why, like, if you see anything that is made for outdoor, generally they use metal for that exact reason, because plastic, while it is indestructible, ultraviolet does not make it last. So you can make sure plastic can waterproof everything, temperature proof everything. The moment ultraviolet touches it, it's like, nope, I'm out of here. So this is the biggest change they are doing. This is the biggest change a customer is going to see. They went from something that is costing company a lot of money to something that is almost like, at this point in time, I don't think this will be the final product, but I'm pretty sure this will be like, no loss, no profit. It's like, yeah, give us $500, take the $500 product. It's not profitable, but at least it is not costing them loss, and it will give them customers. More and more customers equals more and more money. So this is the biggest change that a customer is going to see. Now you have to understand, at this point in time, the world is destroyed after 2020. So the chip shortage is very serious. Flat out, fundamentally, almost every company, be it car manufacturer, be it graphics card manufacturer, be it StarLink, they are all either slowing down or flat out stopping. So what's happening here? Well, reality is, all the old fabrication lab, there was a very huge inrush, but every company predicted there will be a downtime because of the pandemic situation, but that did not happen. So the fact that everybody reduced their order, and the fact that real world demand went up, that created such a huge gap that the shock is like destroyed the whole semiconductor industry. So our demand is ludicrously high at this point in time. Think of this: the companies have been boosting their production ludicrously. They are working their ass off 24/7 to boost the production. They have boosted the production from 10% to 15% to 25%. That's still over demand. Basically, flat out, they cannot meet the demand. Now, when this will be solved? Many years from now, because there is only one way of solving this, because this created basically new shock that has happened. Basically, desktop, nobody was caring about that. Randomly, every Tom, Dick and Harry is buying desktop. Let's not even go into cryptocurrency, and let's not even go to the fact that everybody wants to build an automated car which requires almost a supercomputer inside your car, which means more silicon. So reality is, flat out, it's not going to go away soon unless more and more fabs starts to come online. And at this point in time, I have seen at least 5 fabrication facilities that are being planned in China, 2-3 in Taiwan, 1 in Japan, 1 in Korea, and many other are also trying. But be mindful, this fabrication, even if they are working at like 24/7 to make these sort of things, it could still take at least 2 to 3 years, and that's, I'm talking like war level preparations. So it's gonna take time. Chip shortage is gonna take time because flat out demand is too goddamn high, supply is too goddamn slow, and we have too many bottlenecks. So fundamentally we have to wait for new fabrications to come online. Only then after a while it's like, okay, company can start to do that. So what does that mean for you and I? That simply means even if you place your order in SpaceX, they can't deliver you the Starlink. They're like, yeah, we can't. So they cannot fulfill the growing order. So basically they still have some devices coming in, but if they wanted to, ask the manufacturer, hey, can you increase our order from, let's say, 1,000 a month to 10,000 a month, they're like, no, can't. So that's the whole order, and it will easily take 2024 to start to ease off, because of course there is a limit of money. So fundamentally speaking, everybody who's like, buying ludicrously expensive graphics card, at some point they're gonna run out. So it's gonna go, and crash down will happen, but it will take time. And hopefully, I'm hopeful by 2024 at least one fabrication lab starts to come online, then others will also come on very quickly. So until the fabrication labs are new fabrication labs open up, it's not gonna turn on. Or we may have a weird scenario where it's like, at least in planning stage there are 18 fabrication labs around the world that is being planned. If all of them started to come online by 2025 2026, randomly we're gonna have like, chip oversupply. That's gonna be hilarious. Graphics cards that are cheap. So that's the chip shortage. It's affecting everyone. Now satellite also, you have to understand the satellite right now, they are trying the new generation one, that is version 1.5. Now the biggest difference version 1 and version 1.5 is the laser equipped satellites, meaning the older variant did not have lasers into them. Now why they did not have lasers? Well, they could not crack it. Basically they figured out the plan, they figured out the theory, hypothesis, they even made mock-up models. And if you remember, very long ago they have launched 2 Starlink satellites. That was the first Starlink satellite test. It had lasers, but reality is they could not miniaturize it, make it cost effective enough where they can like, okay, we're gonna mass produce 1500 of them, 1600 of them. They could not do that. So that's why version 1. Was released. Now 1.5, it was a trial run of the laser system. Be mindful, it is not the final product. That's why the number is not complete. It's 1.5. So all current satellites right now that is in orbit are placeholders, meaning those are only there to teach SpaceX how to manage that. Basically to teach Starlink company is like, okay, this is how you manage these satellites. Because it's one thing to say, okay, we're gonna launch 40,000 satellites. How the heck you gonna keep track of 40,000 satellites? How many ground stations do you need? How many points of redundancy you need? You do not know these things. You have to build them to figure it out. So fundamentally speaking, all these satellites are placeholders. However, their aim was, be mindful, was a version 2 satellite, which will be the actually capable satellite, meaning it will be capable of handling much more customers, because it will have interlink. It will not have the old bottleneck of that there must be a ground station. The version 1 has this biggest flaw. That's why it was not opened, all across the world at the same time. They were like, dude, we had to build ground stations, because a satellite could only work if it was directly looking at the ground service. Because I'm a satellite, if I'm looking at ground station and if I have 50 customer here, I can easily feed them. But if I go out of zone, but I'm still looking at the customer, but if I don't have ground station, I'm useless. Now is a laser interlink supposed to bypass that? It's like, okay, rather than going to the ground station directly, I will talk to the satellite near me, and any satellite that is near to the ground station, I'm like, is gonna use laser pipeline. So version 2 is supposed to do that properly. Basically 1.5, they got the technology down, built the laser links, and they are starting to test those things. And version 2 will be the final money maker. At this point in time, this is like just a trial system. However, Falcon 9 simply cannot do. They need basically Starship. Without Starship, this project will fail before it even gets started. Because even though they are claiming they have launched many satellites, and many of them are healthy and working, and they are giving satellite coverages, they are selling customers, they have around 100k customers, it's flat out. The money they spent on getting those 100k customers is too goddamn high, meaning they have to make sure their services are ludicrously expensive in order to make profit, which they cannot make it. It's like if they start to charge like, let's say, $500 $600 for their services, many people will still pay for that, but not too many. So the reality is Starship needs to be happen, because this is not enough. And be mindful, this basically 1.5 version is not even full weight. What they are expecting for their final version 2 would be satellite would be bigger and heavier. So meaning Falcon 9 simply does not have the fairing capacity to put enough of them, and not to mention does not even have enough oomph to carry that to space. So reality is satellite part is also stuck. So right now, realistically speaking, they have to deal with a lot of problems. I mean, a lot of problems. Chip shortage is directly limiting how much they can, customers they can satisfy. So meaning they cannot saturate the network which they have already built. So that itself is an issue. And the road ahead is flat out on disease, because Starship is not working as they were expecting, and they are literally edging closer to bankruptcy now. Be very mindful, they're never gonna go bankrupt simply because Elon Musk himself has enough stock in Tesla which he can sell. Of course, consequence, he has to give up control over the company, but he has enough cash flow that he can save the SpaceX without any issue. However, he should not need to do that. So road ahead is very, very dangerous, and they must build Starship as soon as possible. And right now, if you have paid attention to Starship project, you would have noticed that, hey, wait a minute, they started to slow down. Why the heck they're starting to slow down? It's like, test 1, test 2, hop 1, hop 2, hop 3, hop 4, everything was happening quickly, and then it's like done everything. They're just doing static fire, they're not launching anything. They have built the booster, then they are deassembled it, they built it again, they deassembled it. It's like, why the heck they are going round and round? Reality is their engine production is not working. So getting Starship ASAP is very difficult, and they have to do it, otherwise the loan is gonna run out. And regulation is also another issue, and regulation in all fronts, meaning going to other country and be like, hey, I'm gonna displace all your internet service provider. It's not something that every country is like, yeah, come here and displace our local ISPs. It's not desirable, even if SpaceX provides better connection, because again, you do want your country to be self-sufficient. So fundamentally that creates a lot of regulation where people are like, I get it, you are giving good service, but I don't want to be dependent on you, which is a second private company from another country, which is not as easy to pill to swallow as you may think. So regulations is also issue. Another, that same regulation issue is also dealing with their Starship development, because FAA is no longer giving them, yeah, just do whatever you want to do. So all these things is one problem. Then they have another problem. The market is shrinking. For example, countries like India and China, they are huge markets, meaning more than 1 billion people. Now here's deal. India, I'm talking about India because I'm living here. It's like reality is India is getting very good basically FTTH penetration, meaning fiber to the home is growing rapidly. Meaning right now, basically early 2010, you have to be ludicrously rich and ludicrously metropolitan city only, and also in the central part where you could get fiber. Now I'm talking like tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, almost every place is getting fiber. And that simply means only villages don't have fiber. Even those of them have local fiber service provider. Be mindful. It's like, yeah, those local service fiber providers are not great, but they are much better than they used to be a few years ago. So reality is, this sort of scenario is creating a system where just like not enough people are left to demand huge amounts of internet service. Same is happening in China, and China might simply block its Starlink. So they are expecting that they're not going to penetrate much, and same goes in everywhere else also. For example, other countries, unless they are telecom industry is stupid, they're like, hey, let's actually try to give a good service. Because be mindful, if you are thinking about Starlink system, either you have to be mobile customer, meaning you are moving like a bus, a train, aircraft. In those sort of scenarios, there is no other option. But anything other than that, you should be able to utilize any normal telecom industry technology. For example, mobile towers have huge ranges. Mobile tower have under fiber connection laid down to there, so that you can physically do that. It's just company does not, laziness. There is no competition there. So if all other small scale ISP starts to actually do the hard work, and it's like, okay, let me lay down the fiber, let me give connections, they can easily remove Starlink customers, and that market is shrinking. Because again, when I started with this fiber to the home connection, there was only one company that was giving all India coverage. Not all India as in like every single place in India, but like nationwide, because we did have many fiber providers like ACT, but it was like in a few states. Not even few states, only few districts, so to say. But then we had Geo. Now Geo started to cover whole swaths of like hundreds and 800 towns were covered in that. And then we have another big company like Airtel. Airtel is also giving hundreds of towns are covered. So let that sink in. It's like all, and this is, I'm talking about India. Same is happening everywhere around the world, where it's like more and more places are getting fiber to the home. So their market is shrinking. Yes, the mobile customers, they are not going anywhere because physically they cannot be served by any other means. However, the raw customer base they were expecting, that market is shrinking, and if they keep spending more money, they may end up in a chicken and egg scenario, where it's like, dude, we cannot charge more money for the customer, because customer is gonna jump to another system, and if we don't charge enough, we risk bankruptcy. So there are far more problems ahead than initially realized. And not to mention, again, chip shortage is very brutal, very destructive, and it's nothing to do with Elon Musk. So that's one of those things. But other things, they have to sort it out. So this was my presentation on Starlink update. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I would have said press dislike, but good luck with that. And I would urge you to leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you are free, and as always, thanks for watching.